Monday morning. I'm Shaka Martins. This is Smooth Breakfast, and joining me for the next half hour, I've got two analysts for you, Mr. C and Ugo Dre. Good morning and good morning. How are you?
Good morning and good morning. How are you too? How is Lagos? How's everybody?
Ah,
hmm
we're,
Since
we're
you came with that
surviving.
energy.
We're surviving, Mr. C.
Good morning, Shopper. Lagos, sorry about the few queues, but let's just take it easy and hope that it will resolve pretty soon.
Yeah, since it's your fault.
That's what we hope. Wait, no, not to that. And we've got you to be the third analyst. All you need to do is send your messages in. Go over to our WhatsApp platform and send messages to 0809 440 981. We are streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos, and we'll be taking your comments up on the live stream as well. And you can also use the hashtag freshly pressed 981 on Twitter. All right, lots of stories for today, so let's get into them. The first one that we've got is from the Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria in process of total collapse. This, according to the former INEC boss, Atahiru Jega, who's alleged that the reckless elite in control of governance process are blindly running the country aground. And he went on to state that the 2023 general elections may be the make or break epochal moment. Mr. C, what would you say to that?
Thank you, Shopper. I totally agree, Professor Jega, that the 2023 elections may be the ma or break elections for Nigeria. Over the past 18 months, we've seen a steady decline in the quality of life, the quality of governance in Nigeria. Now, there are a plethora of reasons responsible for this sad and sorry decline. But we've seen administrations, federal and state levels, that appear not to be too concerned about the welfare of Nigerians, that appear not to fully understand the implications of being in office. And it's a situation that is gradually it has gotten worse over a period of time. So there's a general sense of frustration in the land. It's
So someone made this illusion saying that we're like frogs in a pot of water, and the heat has been turning up and we are slowly boiling, and I feel like we've come to boiling point now. No.
we've not we should have gotten there, but we're not there yet because Nigerians have this incredible sense of tolerance. But I fear that it's gradually being breached. Now you find a cross section of Nigerians trying to escape the country every day through legal and illegal means. Then you have people here who don't know where the next meal is coming from. The last 5, 6, 7 years have been extremely hard. People have gone from being able to eat 2 square meals a day to hoping and praying they will find something to eat. But in the midst of all of this, right, there's a glimmer of hope in the sense
What's
that,
that?
so the glimmer of hope is this. Some Nigerians, individuals and businesses, have still found a way to thrive despite all the bad indices. And the fact that there is now a chance to bring in people who actually know what they're doing. Because we've now seen collectively the consequences of electing leaders who are not suited for the rigors, for the demands of office. Because we've been treated to instances where elected leaders say that they don't know how they're going to get money for their states. They don't know how they're going to pay salaries. And when you look at the reforms, the acts, the proposals that were passed by the Senate and the House of Reps this week in respect of constitutional reforms, slowly but steadily, the issue of restructuring has started. The answers have started rolling out. And Nigerians are now determined that, look, we will start to make things better for ourselves. The current system doesn't work. And it is imperative that despite the shenanigans of the people in power, we should all go out, get our PVCs, and be determined to make that sacrifice to vote in the right crop of leaders. If we don't do that, I fear for Nigeria after 2023.
All right, now let's take a look at this next article. New Telegraph, organized private sector, Russia-Ukraine war Nigeria's GDP trillions of naira. They're saying that Nigeria's economy could for losses estimated at 2 billion naira in agricultural produce and COVID-19 vaccines importation alone, and trillions of naira in energy sources importation from Russia. What would you say to this, Ugudri?
Yeah. So the world is a global village. So whatever it is that happens elsewhere in the world tends to affect other countries, and Nigeria is not
The butterfly
excluded.
effect, although this might be the T-Rex effect, because that is a big stomp that's going
Yeah,
on over
yeah,
there.
it's huge, and it's not just Nigeria. It's global.
Mm.
So when you have sanctions going one way, it kind of ricochets back to those who are also delivering the sanctions. This headline might be a little bit sensational. Not too sure about the GDP losses that they put here, but what we do know is that you've already seen oil prices. I think Brent hit $113
Yeah.
at some point yesterday. So what that means is diesel cost and fuel cost would likely increase in the next weeks to come. And when you have fuel cost increase, then it means that the subsidy the government needs to pay would basically widen, and that affects how much government spends on capital expenditure. Then for those who rely on diesel for maybe alternative power supply, I think a lot of people are groaning already. Diesel cost is over 400 naira per liter, so that's very difficult. So businesses are
Mm.
finding it difficult to also survive. Power situation is pretty bad as well, so that has just kind of compounded the entire issue. And then of course you now have fuel scarcity, too. So and then Russia also is a major trading partner for Nigeria. A lot of people, don't seem to know that
Well,
Nigeria
now
does.
we're
Yeah, so
starting to
now people are
learn.
starting to learn. Yeah, so Nigerian-Russian trade is valued at about $2 billion. And interestingly, Nigeria relies on Russia for wheat, even though most of its wheat importation comes from the US. And Russia is also a major exporter of commodities, including wheat. So now wheat prices are at an all-time high. Well, at I think 4 or 5 year high, because of this crisis. And Nigeria import at least 90 something percent of his
What is
wheat,
it that we grow
and
5% of our wheat, we import 95% of
yes,
it?
yes,
My
yes, yes. In fact,
goodness.
the last data was 1% is what we grow.
1%?
Yeah. So
Wow,
Nigeria
it's dropped.
relies a lot on and we eat wheat like no man's business in this country. So whether it's your cereal, whether it's your bread, whether it's your pastries, everybody just loves to
And
eat
that's your
wheat in
birthday
this country.
cake.
So again, if you have party and you're planning a party in the next 3 months, maybe you want to consider doing it early, because
Mhm.
I do think that prices would likely go up again, and we've
We've
seen
already had high food inflation, so
it's
now,
gonna keep going on because
so
there's just several things that are happening at the same time, and we do not have control of these things, and that's terrible. If you
So
have a
how do you think I mean, how do you think we're going to be able to navigate this going forward? We already have people so many people who drop below the poverty line in Nigeria. They now call us the poverty capital of the world. Are we now going to become the poverty universe of the world? What do
No,
you think
we
is going to
just
happen?
cement our position as poverty capital of the world. Nobody's challenging us for that, so we cement it. And how do we survive? I think Mr. Sigana alluded to it, and it's what is a typical example is sachetization. So you're going to see a
Okay.
lot more things sachetized. You see things
Ah,
going into sachets, and then you see sachets get even smaller. Sachets will get bigger, but the contents even smaller. Things like
we've already seen people currently before Russia invaded Ukraine chopping up yam into bits
yeah,
so that they
that's
could
what
buy it.
exactly.
Just
That's
how
what.
small
Yeah,
are
because
we
at
going
the
to
end
see the
of the
bits
day,
go?
affordability is now what matters. So you're gonna see people at some point. You won't need to buy a bunch of plantain again. A bunch of plantain is about 2K for maybe 6 pieces or thereabouts. So if you want to eat plantain, you're probably just gonna buy one piece,
I don't want to eat
right?
plantain
Or
anymore.
so it's sort of like this is in a country that plans pretty well, and a country that is rich, you have reserves, and this is when you open up your reserves when things like this happen. They don't happen all the time, and when they do occur, you push out your reserves just to try and drop food prices. What I do expect though, and I hope the government is listening, is a lot of all the very draconian policies that we've had over the last few years. They've got to relax them. People have got to be able to import food items rather than just block importation of food items. item. Of course, without with the fear of imported inflation. But that
Mm.
has to happen so that you can bring food prices down.
All right, we've got more news for you. New Telegraph now. Buhari approves $8.5 million for evacuation of 5,000 Nigerians from Ukraine. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Zubairu Dada, briefing reporters alongside the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Umar Farouk, saying that Air Peace and Max Air have been contracted by the government to provide 3 aircraft and run as many shifts as possible to facilitate the evacuation. He also said that those to be evacuated include 940 from Nigerians from Romania, 150 from Slovakia, and 350 from Poland who have registered for evacuation. This is heartening news. However, something that did come up was the former Nigeria ambassador of Nigeria to Japan, Professor Gana Issa, who said that there are up to 8,000 Nigerians there in Ukraine who will be looking to leave, and that the government is looking forward to evacuating 2,000 in the next couple of days. The question being what happens to the others. But what angle would you take this story from?
Shabir, I think step in the right direction. At least something is being done.
Mm,
Let's remember that this is also taxpayers' money that they're using. Money that a lot of us here, those of us that are here, suffering and doing all the pain, we're basically the ones bankrolling this as well.
yeah.
But they are brothers and sisters. They are Nigerians, so we got to find a way to bring them back home. So step in the right direction. I'm only just worried about how this money is going to be used, because you do know that a chunk of this money is going to go in people's pockets. It's just what happens all the time. I'm not trying to sound negative, but it's gonna happen. So, but let's,
I
because at the
think
end of
that's
the day,
called
if
at
you
this point
follow the,
sounding realistic.
yeah, I'm just sounding realistic. So if you follow the money, where's the money going to go to? Sir, airlines, transportation, stipends, food, logistics. So those are, that's basically how they're going to spend it on health. They're going to spend it judiciously. We hope so, but it's obvious that, if you want to be realistic, a huge part of it is going to go to people's pocket. And at the end of the day, what we usually don't see happen in things like this is people now being held accountable. Okay, come and tell us how this money was actually spent. But I think more needs to be done. I think the same way we're able to rally corporates, to contribute money for COVID. At some point, if this war continues to escalate, I think that's what they might need to see. Private sector might need to come to the aid of government
Mm.
again. Put some money together and see how we can get a lot of these Nigerians back home, because we
I'm
don't
a
want to be
big
caught in the
fan
crossfire.
of public private sector working together to things actually move when that happens. All right, now let's take a look at the next article. It comes in from the Guardian newspaper as we talk about health. Buhari leaves for Nairobi and London as fuel scarcity bites harder nationwide. So the president, who doubles as the Minister of Petroleum, left yesterday to take part in a special session to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the United Nations Environmental Program in Nairobi in Kenya, and from there he will proceed to London for a routine medical checkup as part of an itinerary that is expected to last 2 weeks. So we've had as the president leaves, as the Minister of Petroleum Resources leaves, we've had motorists slumping due to exhaustion from waiting in the queues. We've had others who are using cudgels, broken bottles, spanners, iron rods to fight each other. It feels like we're living in Squid Game. And the person that we should be looking to as minister and as president, because he's pulling double duty here, he's once again out of the country. What would you say to this?
Shepard, when I read this story, that just came to my mind was that very beautiful picture of Buhari sitting in the living room and crossing his legs with toothpick in his mouth and watching TV and, like, just
Relaxed.
relaxing. So I think that's something that some of us have come used to. My must travel. So I was seeing someone on social media
I
last night,
love,
and they
by
were
the
saying,
way, if you're not up on YouTube, you should be, because Mr. C is just in the background giving silent support to Ugudre's arguments. But you were saying Ugudre.
yeah, somebody on social media was saying, add this other country to me now. You haven't been to this country yet.
Oh,
Like, because they've been counting
goodness.
the itinerary. So, but insensitive, is it insensitive? Perhaps because when you see few queues all around the country, and even if I'm to give credit to him, I don't think I've ever seen few queues throughout
December 2016, 2017. This is the fourth.
Well, this is the worst though, because I don't think I've seen any.
No, December
The
Uh,
hashtag
2017.
Petrocalypse has not
this long.
started trending yet.
Yeah. So, okay, my bad. So this is perhaps the worst, that I've seen, and it's only getting worse. Businesses are now advising employees to start to work from home because it's getting increasingly difficult to get to work, 3 hours to work, 3 hours back home. Productivity is getting low. And nobody knows when this is going to end. And the sign there's a blame game going on. Lagos state government is there threatening people for the block road, you seize your cars. It's just so difficult, living in this country. And then you have a president who just hops on the private jet that we pay for, and go to Kenya, and then from there go for a 2 weeks medical checkup, and then comes back again to pig and crossing his legs and watching all of us as we
Two
complain.
weeks, people. 2 weeks. That's the itinerary.
I want to quickly jump in. Now, the second part of his visit is a routine medical checkup.
Routine.
Routine.
Hmm.
Now, yes, it will be argued that he's grown accustomed and grown comfortable using the same doctors. So why not fly the doctors into Nigeria? Surely it is cheaper than taking the presidential jet out with your team of aides and security details. That's one. Two, how do you travel out at a time like this? That environmental program, how many world leaders are going to be there? Send your minister for environment.
All right, we've got your messages coming in. Up on WhatsApp, Tayo from Aja says, no matter the crisis, greedy people will never cease to profiteer. While Samuel from Aleki says, when I heard that we voted $8.5 million to evacuate Nigerians in Ukraine, I wonder how much will a ticket cost. But since Nigerian airlines have been contracted to this evacuation, I'm actually relaxed. At least the money will come back to our economy. But seriously, must we make money from everything that happens in this country? We've got this one in. Guru from Aja says, what kind of medical checkup takes 2 weeks? Whilst Peter from Festac says, the president approving $8.5 million to evacuate less than 3,000 stranded Nigerians in Ukraine. Well, I want to say this money is only in the newspapers. It's already being misappropriated. Your messages really are coming in. I'm going over to YouTube where Babafemi Anokweson says, those flights to Poland and the like may come back empty. That's if the approved money does not get fleeced by the people handling the evacuation project. Who wants to return to this untold hardship? And Olalikon Isaac says, this country. I can't read the rest of that. But let's take a look at the president's wife, who is still in Dubai and getting visits from the Punch newspaper. Aisha Buhari's birthday coincided with Dubai official trips, say governors' wives. The Nigeria Governors' Wives Forum on Wednesday saying, contrary to speculations on social media, that its members did not set out to celebrate the First Lady's birthday. It just happened to coincide with their official trip to Dubai. A statement from the chairperson of the forum, Bisi Fayemi, saying, for the avoidance of doubt and in the interest of the public, the Nigerian governor's wives were on the entourage of the First Lady of Nigeria, who was on an official trip to the UAE. Mr. C, what would you say?
Ugo took Ugo took my thought exactly. It's indeed a big one. So, first of all, the Nigerian constitution does not recognize the office of the First Lady. So what is this business about an official trip? You're not recognized officially, so there shouldn't be an official trip. Now, the wives were on the entourage. Now, for each dignitary, you have at least two aides. You have security details.
We're doing the mathematics now.
So you can imagine the circus that flew to Dubai. What did they say they were going to do? They were going to attend the Dubai Expo, which tourists attend, which individual business people attend. That they were going to the Dubai e-learning center, Dubai Youth Hub, and meeting with foundations and agencies who are interested in investing in education, health, and technology in Africa, with priority given to women and young people. This is a job for the private sector people in Nigeria and government officials. Why are you talking to wives of elected officials? Now, it's interesting that this visit was timed to coincide with the birthday. Forget the English that has been spoken. You all traveled out, obviously on state resources, and then not only did you carry a cake there, You weren't sensitive enough
Wow, I love that. Not only did you carry a cake there. Uh-huh.
to post it on social media. Nigerians are going through harrowing times from a security perspective, from a petrol perspective.
I mean, if you look at the just going on social media, just press the search button. It will give you all the trends that are all the words and phrases that are trending. Lucky, fuel, power, everything.
So we're going through
Aisha Buhari.
we're going through all these things. A critical vote was being taken at the National Assembly concerning women, and they're there doing something else.
All right, can we actually talk about that now? Let's take a look at this. From the Premium Times, we have this one in Nigerian women protest after lawmakers reject bills seeking gender equality. Scores of Nigerian women going to protest on Wednesday at the National Assembly against the rejection of several bills seeking gender equality in the country. Now, of the 68 legislations which we had spoken about earlier on in the week taking place or having been voted on, about five of those bills sought to promote more opportunities for women in political powers, in political parties, in governance, and the society at large. And all five bills were rejected. There were some bills that seemed like they were low-hanging fruit. One of which was seeking to grant citizenship to foreign-born husbands of a Nigerian woman, because already a Nigerian man's foreign-born wife is automatically made a Nigerian citizen. But we have more bills like that. I mean,
Okay.
this is the protests are here. What's your take on this?
Okay, so let me remind the listeners of the five bills that were rejected. The first bill was a bill seeking to grant citizenship to a foreign-based spouse, to a spouse of foreign origin who marries a Nigerian woman. That was denied. Then 35%, they wanted 35% of the seats in National Assembly reserved for them. Expectedly, that ought to have failed. Now, denying women affirmative action in party administration leadership. Why is this even a bill? In my opinion, it shouldn't be a bill. They should just come out and collectively enforce their position. Then you have denying specific seats for women. That will not fly because of constitutional provisions. Now, the bill I have a challenge with is if a Nigerian man can confer citizenship on a foreign woman by virtue of marriage, why is that not the case for a Nigerian woman? And this is a provision that Sarah should quickly challenge in court, because I'm pretty certain that if this is challenged in court, that provision will be struck down. The Nigerian man is not greater than the Nigerian woman. If a Nigerian man can pass on citizenship to a foreigner, a Nigerian woman should equally be able to do that. Not that Nigerian citizenship right now is something to be decided or sought after, but
Well,
that should be the case. Now, they're protesting. I think they're going about this the wrong way, right? There's no need to protest. You've noted what has happened. Elections are coming. The same people who rejected these bills are coming back to look for support to get back in. And this time, you need to critically drill and interrogate the candidates. What is your position? We need to know their positions on a number of issues. In the last two or three elections, people were elected. We weren't even sure who they were, let alone what they stood for. That cannot continue.
okay, let's take a look at this next one, which is still on women, still on equality. From the Guardian newspaper, FEC approves revised national gender policy. Now, according to the Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Pauline Talon, the policy represents a set of minimum standards expected of the Nigerian government to meet its mandate for gender equality, good governance, accountability, and being socially responsive to the needs of its vulnerable group. She said, and I quote, equity remains the foundation of the core principles of the Agenda 2030, which says, leave no one behind. All right, Mrs. C, once again, I'm coming to you for this.
Okay, so it's interesting to note that the national gender policy has been revised, but just like every other piece of legislation in Nigeria, our problem isn't in coming up with pieces of work, pieces of legislation,
The
policies,
buzzword, implementation.
execution. That's it. Do we have the desire to execute what has been brilliantly reduced into writing? And until we get to that point, we will continue to have all these paper documents. So the paper document is the ideal. The execution is the reality. And given the traditional mindset of a lot of Nigerians, it's interesting to note when we will begin to execute. And it's interesting to note that In the history of Nigeria, there's never been a female governor. Even from the parts of the country that you would think are traditionally more progressive, more liberal, more
Mm.
open-minded, more forward-thinking, it hasn't
I mean,
happened.
we've had female deputy governors, but not female.
No female
Mm.
governor, no female Senate president. So it begs the question: have we even had a female vice president? No.
No.
So it begs the
Oh.
question: gender equality. At what point? I'm not even sure any of the major chairmen have of the political parties have been women. I can't readily recall. So there's still a lot of work to be done. We should stop paying lip service and actually start the execution.
All right, let's go over to your messages now. We've got this one online from Third Mainland. We're saying father is out of town, mother is out of town. Children are suffering from the provision that father is in charge of. Nigeria House of Commotion, he says. Whilst this one in from Henry, who says, why are we proud? What is this citizenship thing again? We are clearly biased all around, gender, tribe, age. It's all so sad. And Cisco Delgado says, Mr. C, tell them. That's literally all the message has to say. Steve says, Steve from Awoyaya says, Nigerians and taking deplorable political decisions are 5 and 6. They won't register to vote, they won't join a political party, and they won't vote in people who have sense and consider consistency. From what I see, it will get way worse before it even thinks of getting better. And let's take a look at what's going on with regards to our airlines. From the Guardian newspaper, airfares hike is long overdue, say airline operators. Some domestic airline executive officers saying that the airfares hike is long overdue in Nigeria. They made the assertion during separate interviews with the news agency of Nigeria. According to them, some charges to be paid by the airlines have skyrocketed, and most maintenance services are done through foreign exchange, which means that those two have gone up. This comes in as the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission yesterday ordered airline operators to immediately discontinue the current implementation of airfare increase pending the outcome of its investigation, because they said this looks like cartel behavior and we have rules and laws against that. Good, your thoughts?
Yeah, interesting story here, and a lot of things going on at the same time. So, airlines met, according to a story that we saw a few days ago, and agreed that they would, collectively raise airfares, and they cited, reasons. They claimed that aviation fuel gone up by about 60%, charges and fees within the airport had also gone up, and the fan as well, excuse me, fan as well said exchange rates, depreciation, and all that has affected them. So everybody has increased prices. But FCCPC's point is that you can increase price, but you can't come together and agree to increase prices because that is a cartel.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, they're correct. So they have to prove that anyway. So and that's why they are saying they've got to scale back because that is not competitive behavior. So this article and this interview, if you read it well, you find out that what's going on here, Chappelle, it's lobbying. So so the airlines themselves are pushing back, and so they've got to put their narrative in the news and try to explain their position and why things are happening this way. To be fair to them, I think it's pretty obvious that prices of goods and services have skyrocketed everywhere
Yes.
right now. But what is not clear is if you leave it to the individual airlines, will they increase their fares by about 100%? Would some increase by 25? Would some increase
Yes,
by
and that
30?
is the whole point of not forming a cartel.
Exactly, and that's why FCCPC is coming. I hope that they resolve this pretty soon. What is clear is that price of goods and services has gone up, but I don't think that some airlines would have increased by 100% because I mean, it all depends on how efficient you are as an airline, and this is a very competitive industry as it is anywhere in the world.
All right, now we don't have much time for this, but very quickly, I do want to touch on this story in from this day newspaper. Independent investigation panel on SARS gives police 6-day ultimatum over missing person. The panel querying them saying that why have they refused to obey the order to produce a deputy commissioner of police?
Very quickly, the culture of impunity continues. This is another example, and this order dates from last year. They haven't produced. There's some police officers they're supposed to produce. They haven't produced them. There's no explanation, and in their eyes, they believe that nothing will come out of it.
Well, there you go. Let's take a look at your messages to end the show. Although I still need to make time for the messages. Dr. Lawal says our women are busy traveling. You know where? To Dubai. Mm, that's all I'm gonna say. And is that you? So many of your messages have come in. Thank you so much for sending them in. We will continue the conversation as much as we can. And I would like to thank my analysts for today. You can find them on social media at Ugo Dre, and you also check out Nairametrics and at Monsieur C with a triple E after the C. Thank you, gentlemen. And coming up 10 past 8 Lagos, you will be talking Constitution Review.
Right.
Oh, dang it! Oh, I made it.
You made what?
2 seconds to 8:01. He will sharp show up at 8 o'clock.
So yeah, this is Stan Ike and I. Yeah, I go by name Be Easy. We're in the building. We're in the building. Feds, they never thought we could do something like this, right? Hey, where Stan is at?
Yeah, Devo is running late.
Huh? Who's
Devo.
running? Devo. Oh, Devo is supposed to be in for today. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So
How late are we talking?
I don't know. Most likely like middle of the show late. Ah, because there's definitely traffic and it's just
Whoa.
leaving Ikoyi.
Oh, living in Kui.
Yes,
He
but there's
should
traffic.
still be-
Yeah, sure.
Is he on
Okay,
a
so the
rise?
story we did yesterday, and then the full list of the 68
Mhm.
posts.
I think I checked yesterday. I don't think I saw Grapevine.
Yeah, actually, I was going to tell you. Sorry, we're playing from.
Oh
Okay.
God,
Sorry,
I really
sorry,
playing from
sorry.
YouTube.
Sorry.
You don't know when an ad is going to come in. Oh, Shibi, I think I forgot to stop that.
Oh, my days. Sorry, talking.
Oh well.
And there are 13 people watching.
Hi, it's
Thank
okay.
you,
Thank you and
bye.
goodbye. Watch out for Lagos Talks at 10 past 8.